Chair Schmid, you may begin.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Welcome to the November 8th, 2021 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all those in attendance today, please note that the Planning Commission meeting is being held using the Zoom webinar format. So you will see that the planning commissioners and staff are panelists. Please note that there are several ways to submit comments during this meeting. You may raise your hand in Zoom by clicking the raise hand button located at the bottom of your screen. Members of the public who are participating in the Zoom webinar by phone can dial *9 to raise a hand. You may also send your comments by email to publiccomment@burlingame.org. Staff will be monitoring emails submitted during the meeting, which will be read at the appropriate time. The length of the email comment should be commensurate with the 3 minutes customarily allowed for verbal comments. If you're an applicant or an applicant's representative, I will ask you to raise your hand when your agenda item is up for discussion so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. We ask that you also turn on your video at that time so that we have more clear communication, simulating the experience we would have if we were in an in-person meeting. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and will be uploaded to the city's website after the meeting. Moving on to agenda item number 2, roll call. The record should note that all members of our commissioners are present this evening. Okay. Moving on to item number 3, meeting minutes. We do have meeting minutes from the October 12th meeting to approve.
Yes. Mr. Chair, I'll recuse from voting on that since I was not present at the meeting.
Okay.
And Chairman, I'll recuse also as I was not present at the meeting.
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Motion.
Great. I got a motion by Commissioner Camerado and a second by Commissioner Say and Commissioner Larios. We don't need to vote, right? No.
No, we do
Oh,
vote.
yes, we do vote. Sorry, I see it now.
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall. Oh, sorry.
I'm recused.
Commissioner Larios.
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Loftus. Oops, I am off my game today. Chair Commissioner Toronis.
Aye.
And Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0-2-0. And moving on to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda tonight?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, and do we have any recusals this evening? Seeing no movement, great, we'll move on. Item number 5, public comments. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for a future planning commission agenda may do so during the public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the planning commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. A timer will sound at the end of the time. I may adjust the time limit in light of the number of anticipated speakers. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on any item that is not on our agenda? I am not seeing any hands. Is there any public comment that was sent in to us?
No, I am not seeing any public comments in the public comment at burlingame.org inbox.
Perfect. Then moving on, we do not have any study items this evening. So moving on to the consent calendar. Okay. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine. They are acted upon simultaneously unless separate discussion and/or action is requested by the applicant. a member of the public, or a commissioner prior to the time the commission votes on the motion to adopt. Would any member of the public or the applicant like to pull this item for discussion? Or would any member of the planning commission like to pull this item for discussion? I'm not seeing any movement. Okay,
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the items on the consent calendar.
thank you, sir.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Loftus and a second by Commissioner Toronis. Can we have a vote?
Let me just check before we do. Was everybody in attendance for each of these items? We have a pretty big consent calendar. If anyone was not there, we should split them up, but otherwise, we can
I
go
wasn't,
forward.
but I did review all of the videos for all the meetings that I missed, the last meeting I missed.
Okay, that will work.
For the record, same thing. I've reviewed all the videos and the minutes.
Great.
Okay,
So Chair Camerado.
Aye.
Commissioner Camerado, thank you. Commissioner Gall.
Aye.
Commissioner Larios.
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis.
Aye.
Commissioner Say.
Aye.
Vice Chair Loftus. And Chair Schmidt.
aye. Motion carries 7-0-0-0. Congratulations to those on the consent calendar. Okay, moving on to item number 8, regular action items. 2829 Los Piedras Drive. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn your video on at that time. For any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project?
Mr. Chair, I was not present at the meeting when it was discussed as a review item, but I did visit the project site, watched the video, and have reviewed the documents.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Toronis, your hand is up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I did visit the project site, and I also visited the uphill neighbor at 2833 Los Piedras Drive, had a conversation with them when I was accessing their residence to view the story poles.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Larios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, I was not able to visit the site. However, I have reviewed the plans and all the pertinent materials.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Say?
Yes, I have visited the site as well as have met the uphill neighbor at 2833 Las Piedras Drive. Also was able to access their home and see the views from their windows facing the bay.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Gall?
Yeah, I was not at the October 12th meeting. However, I did view the video. I also met today with the applicant at 2829, as well as the uphill neighbor at 2833, and they allowed me access into their home to view the story poles.
Great, thank you. Okay, then let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, the existing house at 2829 Las Piedras Drive is 1 story with a lower level basement. The applicant is proposing a 178 square foot first floor addition at the front of the house. The property is in the Hillside area, which requires a Hillside area construction permit. The planning division processed the Hillside area construction permit and mailed the public notice and reduced plans for neighborhood review on August 31st. A request for review of the Hillside area construction permit by the Planning Commission was submitted by neighbor. Per the Hillside ordinance, when a request for review is received, a public hearing is scheduled with the Planning Commission to review the application. Review of a Hillside area construction permit by the Planning Commission shall be based upon obstruction by construction of the existing distant views of nearby properties. This has been interpreted to refer to views of the bay, airport, and East Bay Hills, but not trees, and emphasis shall be given to the obstruction of distant views from habitable areas within a dwelling unit. The applicant is available to answer questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Great, thank you, sir. Do we have any questions of staff at this point? Okay, seeing no hands, then I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Hi, thank you for the opportunity for the review of this application. I have no further to add on top of the previous discussion on the 12th of October, but I'm available if there's any questions.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions of the applicant at this time? Okay, seeing none, then I will look to the public to see if there's anybody who wishes to speak. If you do, raise your hand at this time. Otherwise, then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and go back to my fellow commissioners. Comments or thoughts, please. Commissioner Tronis.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in visiting the project, both the project site and the uphill neighbor's property at 2833, looking at viewing the story poles, I can't see any view obstruction that we would typically take into consideration. In fact, the only thing that's slightly obscured is portions of the nearby tree that's actually on the project property. Some rooftops in the nearby adjacent neighborhood, maybe some lower portions of nearby trees, but no distant views of either the bay and the airport, the East Bay Hills. All of those views are still unobstructed from the uphill neighbor. So since the only thing before us really is the Hillside area construction permit, I see no reason why this couldn't be approved.
Great, thank you, sir. Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, I also was able to access the uphill neighbors inside of their home, and I saw the story poles from the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen, and I did not see any distant view obstruction. I think honestly that this project is very sensitive to the neighborhood, has done very well, and I don't see any reason to hold this up.
Okay, then can I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the project at 2829 Las Piedras Drive as presented and with the conditions in the staff report.
I'll second that motion.
Great, thank you. Motion by Commissioner Tronis and a second by Commissioner Say. Do we have any discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Tronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Loftus,
Aye.
and Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0-0-0. And an action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $708, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 8B, 2701 Hillside Drive. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Okay. Seeing no movement, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. This is an application for design review and a special permit for height for our new 2-story single-family dwelling with a detached garage at 2701 Hillside Drive. The subject property is located at the southwest corner of Hillside and San Benito. It is an upsloping lot, and the applicant's proposing to demolish the existing single-story house with detached garage, which includes living space above, and build a new 2-story single-family dwelling with a new detached garage. The proposed floor area would be 3,165 square feet, or 3,167 square feet is the maximum allowed. The new house would have 4 bedrooms and would require 2 parking spaces, off-street parking spaces, one of which must be covered and would be provided for in the new detached garage. The uncovered space would be provided for in the driveway. Due to the slope of the lot, the applicant is requesting a special permit for a proposed building height of 31.5 feet. A special permit is required for heights between 30 and 36 feet. It's approximately a 6-foot difference between Hillside to the finished floor, which is about 6.5 feet above the average top of curb elevation. This project was first before the Planning Commission on September 27th. At that meeting, the Planning Commission had some concerns and suggestions for changes to the project. In response to those suggestions, the applicant did submit a response letter and plans revised dated October 6th, 2021. And the response letter is included in your staff report. Staff has provided for you this evening suggested findings for both design review and the special permit for height, in addition to 14 recommended conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else that you'd like to add about your project?
No, I have nothing to add unless there's question to be answered. Thank you.
Great, thank you, James. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Tronis.
Yeah, thank you. Just one minor one, James. So you added or extended the low wall along the Hillside Drive elevation.
Correct.
Extended out over in front of that utility door in the stairwell. I think that's a nice solution. I think it just finishes off the base of the building or base of the house there a little bit better. But I don't see that the site plan was updated. Is that, in other words, there's a concrete patio that's along that side there. Would that patio just be extended over and then the landscaping be omitted there in front of that chimney, or what's the intent?
It should follow the elevation, so we'll fix it.
Okay, so that's something that staff could check that when you update your site plan, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, then I'm going to go to the public and see if there's anybody who wishes to comment on this item. So please raise your hand. Okay, not seeing any hands. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, follow-up comments?
Mr. Chair, I think since the project was almost there previously and the applicant has addressed all of our issues, I move that we approve the project with the conditions of the staff report.
Second that.
Great. We have a motion by Vice Chair Loftus and a second by Commissioner Gall. Do we have any further discussion? No. Then can we have a vote?
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say.
Aye.
Vice Chair Loftus,
Aye.
and Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0-0-0. And action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $708, which includes notice and costs. Congratulations. Okay, then now moving on to item 8C, 1221 to 1251 Whitehorn Way. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Okay, seeing no movement, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, the project site consists of a single parcel with 4 existing commercial buildings. The applicant proposes to demolish 2 existing Quonset hut buildings on the site and build 1 new building in this location. No interior or exterior changes are proposed to any of the other buildings on the parcel. The proposed new building would be divided into 4 tenant spaces. Each tenant space would consist of a small ancillary office, automobile repair, and associated storage on the mezzanine level. The Planning Commission reviewed the application as a design review study item on September 27th. The Commission had comments regarding the site layout and suggestions for the proposed landscaping and parking. The applicant submitted a response letter and revised plans to address the Planning Commission's questions and comments. In response to the Commission's comments, the applicant has provided two additional sheets to clarify the existing recorded access easements for the parcel and the site boundaries, clarify the parking spaces that would be removed with the proposed project, and identify parking spaces for which there is a recorded easement for use by an offsite business. The sheets also identify the parking spaces at the rear of 1229 and 1239 Rollins Road that do not have a recorded easement, but which have been leased to off-site businesses for parking with a month-to-month lease for over 10 years. The application includes 2 variance requests. One is for the required landscape coverage. 10% of the site is ordinarily required to be landscaped, but due to the existing configuration of the site, 3.1% would be landscaped. However, in terms of new landscaping for those areas of the site that are proposed to change, the applicant is supplying 9.3% landscaping for the impacted areas. The other request is for the parking count. The staff report provides an overview of the parking allocation for the property. In the interest of time, I won't recap that, but note that the variance is requested for 6 parking spaces. 48 spaces will be provided on site for uses where 54 spaces would otherwise be required. So in summary, the application is for commercial design review for a new commercial building, a variance for total required on-site landscaping, and a variance for required off-street parking. The applicant is available to answer questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions of staff at this time? Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, Kevin, on page 2 of the staff report in the second paragraph, I'm not a math major, but I do use it every once in a while, but this doesn't seem to make sense to me. The proposed project will reduce the commercial square footage on the site by 21,902 square feet, where the existing buildings have 30,531, and the new proposed building will be 21,401. That would be a difference of about 9,000 square feet.
Mike, is Mike Nomeyer on?
I'm here.
Okay, Mike, you want to address that?
Yeah, I think basically the two Quonset huts total about, one of the Quonset huts has 2 floors in it. So there's a total of about 30, whatever you said it was, 30,000 something. I don't have the report in front of me.
Yeah.
And then we're removing those 2 Quonset huts. Basically, we're pushing our parking. Our new parking is essentially where the face of the Quonset huts is now, and the face of the new building is about 27 feet west of that. And our new buildings are with 21 with our mezzanine spaces. They're like 21,000 feet, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
21,400.
So yeah, I think there should be a difference of 9,000 something. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know where the numbers came from in the staff report. So, but
The actual footprint of the building, though, as Michael said, we're pushing this building back 20 plus feet.
Yeah,
and then creating more parking.
Yeah, the numbers just didn't add up to me.
Yeah.
And there's, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah.
So may I just kind of begin, I guess, a quick presentation?
Sure. Actually, sorry, we got confused. There's 2 people with the same name, so I appreciate the applicant answering the question. He did a better job than I would have. But any other?
I thought he was talking to me. I apologize.
That's quite all right. It happens all the time.
Go ahead.
So just before we get to you guys, do we have any more questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, then I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. And applicants, time to go.
Okay,
Now you're on.
I'd like to start, correct me if I'm wrong, I think when we were initially proposed for the design review study portion, I think Commissioner Camerado may not have been there. I know we were missing somebody, but I don't remember who it was. I just want to quickly run through the building concept quickly for everybody, since you're all here, and then I will address the landscape issue and touch on the parking a bit, and then Kevin will follow up with all the parking issues and the leased spaces and that sort of thing. So I don't know who's controlling the drawings on the screen. Is Kevin, is it you or is it Catherine?
Actually, it's Ruben in the
Oh,
background.
it's Ruben? Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I saw his name, but I didn't see his face. All right.
That's how we do it, yeah.
All right. So quickly, since this is the first drawing that was in the way the staff report was issued, basically the building, we're taking down those two old World War II era mid-40s metal Quonset huts, and we want to construct a new concrete masonry unit building that could be divided into possibly 4 spaces. It'd be office warehouse or possibly office auto repair body shop, because that's a prevalent use in the area. Basically, the building would have a ground floor of warehouse and small office with a small mezzanine area above each of the office areas. The front of the building, which we call the east elevation, basically is a combination of split face concrete block and an upper band of smooth concrete block, so we can get a bit of a shadow line there. And then at the office areas, we have horizontal metal corrugated siding and trim with some windows actually also onto the mezzanine area, just mainly because we wanted to break up the big expanse of the area above the office entry areas, which were recessed. The warehouse doors would be the aluminum and glass type to allow light into the space. And then we'd have awnings above each of those main warehouse doors, not only for weather protection, but also to break up the elevation. The elevation facing Mike Harvey, which essentially is parts of it are right on the property line, and the property line there angles to a degree. When we go to the site plan to look at the parking and landscape, we can talk about that. But we have a series of metal screens on the side of the building to grow landscape up the side of the building at that area. And then we're far enough away from the property line, we have openings to the mezzanine above, into the office, and to the recessed entry to the building. The north elevation faces the existing metal building that will remain. It's approximately 5 feet from that building. And there's a walkway there for exiting and egress. And the rear elevation is held off the property line 5'7" inches. And the reason we're doing that is we want to provide access through the back of the building, but also we provided some roll-up doors, same type of doors with the aluminum with the glass panels to provide light into the warehouse, and also that the potential to open those doors and let air go through the building and create just a better feeling in the building. There'd be the section down below here shows this small mezzanine area above the offices, which would be open to the warehouse area. And if we could go to Ruben, yeah, this sheet, this third sheet, this exhibit. I think there was some confusion last time because this is an odd site that has 2 large parcels on it, but they're both essentially flag lots. So the parcel with parcel 1 that our buildings are a part of, there are currently 4 buildings on this site, and we're taking down 2 of them. And that area in the light yellow is the entire parcel that is affected, that kind of governs all of our areas and parking and landscape areas that is called for. And that's about 77,000 feet or so of total area. Our area crosshatched on this plan is where our new building is, with the walkways and the like, where in the parking in front. So that's the area that our building affects of this overall site. And when we talk about landscaping, I'd like to say that the 7,700 feet or 7,500 square feet of required landscape is for the entire site, which is that yellow area. And the area of the site that we are impacting is about 23,000 or so square feet of footprint with the parking and the like. And we are just shy, I think we're at 9% of landscaping of our affected area. But because of the way planning looks at the numbers for parking and landscaping, they have to take the whole site area. We can just, can we go to A01, please, Ruben? Oh, perfect. Okay. So basically, we enter off of Rollins Road one way. There's some existing diagonal parking that remains. There are some parallel parking spaces, which we're removing at the request of the fire department for ease of access for their apparatus. And then the private road comes around and starts north, and our building occupies the western, southwestern corner of the site, where we're adding parking toward where the front of the existing buildings used to be, going back, and then some landscape areas, and then the building occurs. And if you look at across from the building on this particular plan, there are 5 shaded parking areas that you see that are about, yes, thank you. Those are the spaces that are for the Rollins Road property. This is a vacant lot between the 2 buildings. This is the easement that was from like 1957 or something like that, for giving easement for parking to that particular property. And that is 1221 Rollins Road, which is right off of the main entry to the site. There are 3 other spaces that are leased to the building on Rollins Road, and I believe it's for 1239 Rollins Road and 1229 Rollins Road. We number spaces 23, 24, and 25, which is just below where you see Whitehorn Way, the label Whitehorn Way. I know, Ruben. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So those 3 spaces that have leased on them are leased to the occupants of this building, and they were the persons that had made a comment at the last meeting. So with respect to landscaping, we like I said, we have about a hair over 9% of our area, affected area, that we're working on the site, but it's not the 10% of the entire site. So we're just shy. We're about 130 feet or 103 feet or something like that, shy on our landscaping of 10% of our portion of the site. And then if Kevin, if you want to address the parking and the easement.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I think you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, good. Okay, great. Well, I want to touch on one other thing I was going to mention is on the south side of the building that faces Mike Harvey. One of the things we're doing, I think one of the comments from some of the planning commissioners at the last meeting was about green space. They were talking about doing some stuff on the roof, which we'd like to do, but we really can't based on some solar things we're trying to do up there. But on that south facing wall towards Mike Harvey, we're actually going to create a lot of green space. We're going to try to, kind of similar to the Safeway, create that little trellised area and have it grow green up the side, which I'm not sure, Mike, how that's calculated. I don't think we get credit for that whole wall. We get credit only for the planted portion. But I always feel, in a way, when you have a green wall, I think it creates, I haven't, well, as some of you guys know, we did the Walgreens as well, which actually I looked at the other day is getting a little out of control. I've got to go talk to them about that. But I love the idea of that vertical landscape, that feeling of a green look on the outside. And I think that's one of the things we're trying to do there. As far as parking is concerned, we've operated, well, our owner, we manage the site for the family. They've had it for over 50 years. And we've kind of coexisted with, and this came up in the last meeting with some of the neighbors, we've coexisted with the Rollins Road owners and also mostly them on Rollins Road, but we've also coexisted a little bit with Mike Harvey on his site. And we've always come up with a way to allow for some of their parking, because we didn't need it all the time, but allow for some of the parking to be utilized by them as well. It was during our application process that staff had asked us, hey, you really can't lease this out to other people on other sites. So that's when we kind of notified those people, and they got a little up in arms about it. But we haven't, since then reached out to them and talked to them and said, look, once we get the building completed, finished, we're going to let them continue to park, because we don't need the parking, especially now since we vacated the whole storage facility now. And we've never really had an issue with parking over the years. We've had some issues, I think, with how the driveway is used. And one of the things that we're going to be addressing with the neighboring owners and tenants is creating a road maintenance agreement and kind of some rules of the road of how it's supposed to be used. One of the issues that we found as we were going through this project, that as you drive in from Rollins Road along the area next to 1221, the tenant there's Chilton Auto Body, they put a lot of cars along that driveway. And the fire department, when we sat down with them and said, hey, we need to get rid of these vehicles, we need to have a clear path. And that's one of the things we're going to be doing, is removing that parking, which has been utilized by them. And then now, of course, they were getting this additional parking. We didn't even realize, and the owner didn't realize, that they had an easement for these 5 spaces. So now they kind of shifted their parking over to that side, and it solved that problem. As you know, we're creating additional parking in the front of the buildings that we're building. And then on top of that, there's obviously most of the use that you see in this entire project is car based, either through auto detailing, auto repair, body repair. We've got a couple classic car guys, a Corvette guy. It's kind of become this little spot where they all kind of congregate. We anticipate that that's probably a similar type of use that we're going to see in these new spaces we're building. And the unique part is that we're going to have the flexibility to be able to do not just one big space, which we could do, but more or less 4 small spaces to create an opportunity for smaller businesses to operate in the area. So, and on top of that, we feel that, as most of these other car guys do, most of their parking they utilize inside the building, especially at night. They don't leave a lot of cars out at night. There's a few cars, and some of the tenants, I think California Classic, I think he has 2 or 3 vehicles in his warehouse that are worth well over $800,000 or $900,000. So he doesn't leave them outside. And I think that's probably what you're going to see a lot of times. Most of these vehicles and most of the storage, most of the park can be inside, especially at night. We came up with a concept as far as design. We have a lot of metal buildings. These are old metal buildings. And initially we had kind of looked at the possibility of tearing everything down and starting over again. But we found that the costs and the overall return for the family didn't really justify that kind of massive overhaul. But we knew for sure we had to do these Quonset huts, and we kind of focused on that. And at the same time, we're incorporating and creating kind of a tie-in from, you see how the metal we have there, we're actually going to be creating some of the same metal and incorporating that into our metal buildings as we kind of move around the project and rehab the entire project. So our first phase of this is this, and then we're going to kind of wind our way around the project and tie in the metal buildings to our new building, and kind of create a nice little area for local auto body repair shops to operate. And that's about it. I think for the most part, we've worked pretty harmoniously with a lot of the neighbors. We're willing to continue to do that with the neighbors, especially on Rollins Road. They don't have parking, as you guys know. And we're going to do whatever we can to kind of create and continue actually to operate the way we've operated all these years. And I think we will be able to do that.
I'd like to add a couple of very quick points. I think at the last meeting, I don't remember if it was Commissioner Taronis or Commissioner Gall who mentioned about parking inside the building. And we feel we could easily put a few cars, 2 cars in there for each tenant space, but we can't count that toward our parking because the planning department rules just don't let you do that. The other thing I would like to touch on very quickly is that the existing Quonset hut buildings don't do anything for water treatment. the rainwater hits those buildings, goes down the sides and then between them and out into the roadway. And as you heard from one of the members of the public who made comment last time, that they had some water intrusion problems, but we are treating all of our water from our site on the site. We're capturing the rainwater, directing it toward the landscape areas that, on the roof, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to add those 2 points.
Great, thank you both. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicants at this time? Vice Chair Loftus.
Yeah, first, thank you so much for making the drawings understandable for me. I'm the one who could not figure out what was going on, and
we saw that,
yeah. So I really appreciate that. And here's a question for you. You've solved a lot of really sticky problems, and I wonder, just out of curiosity, have you had any discussions about construction site logistics with the contractor?
Yeah, WL Butler is probably going to be our contractor, more than likely. They've already surveyed the site. We actually have some space in one of the existing buildings that we've just got vacant. It actually was part of the storage facility that we're going to probably leave a portion of it vacant so that it can stage it there. And they're pretty good. They're pretty adept, as you guys know. They've done a bunch of projects in Berlin. They did the Walgreens, they did the Safeway. He did 988 Howard for us, and he's pretty good. He's pretty adept at working on the tight site. We're going to do what we can also to make sure, and a couple of the tenants have expressed their concerns like, hey, how are we going to coexist during this time? And I think we'll be able to do that. We're going to have open lines to them. We'll be there, to answer questions and be able to take care of stuff when it needs to be taken care of.
That's perfect. I'm glad to hear that. It's the sort of thing that could bring a project like this to a screeching halt. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I might add, I don't think there's a lot going on the car lot next door. So
no,
that seems like a great opportunity to negotiate, to be able to go out that side.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we brought up, and we met with Kevin Gardner a couple of years ago to discuss the long-term plans, because we know that grade separation was going to be a big issue. We thought, before we jump into this, I don't want to come and start working on a plan and find out, oh no, we got to do this, or we got to do that based on whatever plan maybe come forward as far as that grade separation. So we confirmed, those issues. We made sure the zoning was going to stay the same, which we were happy to see. We know it could have changed, like we have seen down on the other side, closer to the BART. But in the end, we've had discussions, and we're very friendly with Mike Harvey and his site. Right now, it's interesting. I've been talking to him a lot. The space is occupied downstairs by the Acura dealer who he sold his business to, but they're not operating there. They're having it and using it. And so it's just they're vacant. So at some point, I think down the line that Mike is looking at, when that use kind of sunsets, they're probably going to be going all to storage type use down the line, which he has now. So we'll see that continue there. He was, by the way, very happy we shut down our storage, because everybody just wheeled their stuff over to his facility. So he's full now. So it worked out nice.
Good. Okay. That being said, then I'm going to go ahead and go out to the general public and see if there's any comments or questions from there. If you want to comment, raise your hand now, please. I'm not seeing anything right now. Do we have any emails or other comments at this time?
No emails either.
Okay. Well, not seeing any hands. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioner Taranis.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate the clarifications, Mike, that the architect brought for us. There is a confluence of a number of different issues that I see relative to the property. And as I felt before, I got the sense, and now I feel even stronger, that there's good support for a parking variance. We have a number of extraordinary and unique circumstances, not the least of which is that the fact that much of this property and this project itself fronts on a private road. So because it's a private road, in regards to the landscape variance, the public isn't really benefiting hugely by landscaping, that might front this building or be in and around this building. The only people experiencing it are really the people that are accessing this private road. That coupled with the fact that there's the 50-foot right-of-way easement for the private roadway, access easements for adjacent properties, and the build out of adjacent properties all the way to the property line, at least on that one side. I think those are enough unique circumstances for both the landscape variance and the parking variance. And I think that would allow this project to move forward, replace those aging Quonset huts, make things better in terms of both aesthetics, drainage, and overall construction, and improve the parking situation by adding additional spots and maintain somewhat of the status quo or peace and coordination and cooperation that exists in that little enclave now. So I think the project is worthy of the variances and the design review, and I think it should move forward.
Thank you. Vice Chair Loftus.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Tronis on all points. I just wanted to say I never would have expected all of these problems to be solved for this meeting. After the last meeting, maybe I was just carrying with me the pain of not understanding what was going on, and then everybody jumped on board. I just, you guys are to be commended for solving these sticky problems and coming forward with a project that I think considerably improves the situation in that little private road and in that little world. So well done.
Commissioner Camerado.
Yeah, so I actually reviewed the original meeting minutes with the Planning Commission, and I was very confused as Commissioner Loftus was, and I felt that you guys did a great job with the last meeting and this meeting to kind of bring this to the forefront. And thank you for doing the shading of the map, because that, I think, caused a lot of my craziness to be very simple. It was very simple now. And I agree with Commissioner Taronis. I can make a motion to approve this project based on the variances for the parking and landscaping.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Say.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I echo the comments of my fellow commissioners. Thank you for a wonderful job making it clear, communicative. I think the design is very nice. I also appreciate the added green wall on the south side, although it doesn't, affect or apply towards your landscaping square footage. I think that will be a welcome site on that side of the property. So I don't know if Commissioner Camerado actually made a motion. If she did, I will second that motion.
Okay, point taken, but we're going to let Commissioner Larios speak first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend developer for reaching out and doing the outreach piece that is so critical and so vital. And after all the comments we received last time, it was just amazing to see that you went out and actually spoke to all the folks involved, and they're positive moving forward. So I commend you for that. And yeah, I agree with all my fellow commissioners. I'm ready to see this move forward.
Great. I have nothing further to add. So I'm going to take Commissioner Camarado's motion and Commissioner Say's second. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? If not, then can we vote?
Commissioner Camerado.
Aye.
Commissioner Gall.
Aye.
Commissioner Larios.
Aye.
Commissioner Taronis.
Aye.
Commissioner Say.
Aye.
Vice Chair Loftus.
Aye.
And Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0-0-0. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $708, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. Okay, that concludes our regular action items. So we'll move on to item number 9A, 1425 Drake Avenue. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared to speak to you at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing no movement, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. This is an application for design review for first and second story addition to an existing split level house at 1425 Drake Avenue. The subject property is an interior lot and currently contains an existing split level house with an attached garage. The applicant's proposing to convert the lower floor to an accessory dwelling unit and do an expansion at the rear and the front in order to accommodate the accessory dwelling unit and to move the attached garage forward. The main level of the house would be remodeled but would not be expanded. And the project includes a 925 square foot second floor addition. With the proposed project, the floor area would increase to 2,533 square feet, or 3,019 square feet is the maximum. I'm sorry, it would increase from 2,533 to 3,019 square feet, or 3,020 square feet is the maximum allowed. And staff does note that the lot coverage and floor area for the accessory dwelling unit will is not counted towards these totals. There's no increase in the number of bedrooms. It's 4 existing and 4 proposed. That requires 2 off-street parking spaces, 1 covered and 1 uncovered. And with the expanded garage, it will continue to comply with the covered space with a 10 by 20 space and an uncovered space in the driveway. All other zoning requirements are met for this application, and staff has provided for you the design review criteria for reference. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Seeing no hands, then I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Hello, my name is Maria Barmina, and I am the designer for this project. I'm here to answer any of the questions that you might have.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Toronis.
Yeah, thank you. I've got sort of just a few questions on the materials and details. So in looking at the elevation, the exterior elevations, starting with the front elevation, am I correct in assuming that the entire sidewall of the house, is that going to be stucco, including the columns that are on the new front portico?
Yes, so this site is a little bit unique because of all the slopes and how the house actually exists today. So the front, we're planning to do all in stucco, and then there will be a little bit of stone on the side going towards the garage. And then the other side, you hardly even see because it's super close to the property line. And there's a lot of greenery and high fences there. So it's only the left side, if you're facing the front, that will get a little bit more sort of decoration. We also worked with senior planner on facade detailing, and basically through the process to break up the wall, sort of the vertical wall. We came up with this idea of decorative band and then the stone treatment at the base of the wall.
Okay, so it's stucco walls with a stone base.
Yes.
And then is it the railing guardrail that's on the front porch, and then that's also appears, looks like on the same guardrail for the balcony at the rear. Is that a metal railing?
It's a metal wrought iron, yes.
Okay. And then my last question then, I think, is on the window trims. If we go back, here we're looking at the front elevation there, and I'm looking at the second story windows, and you have that window into bedroom number 1 that's centered over the front door. And I look at the casing trims, and it looks to be a wide trim around that window, but then the two windows that are into bedroom number 2, it looks like a thinner casing, and then other windows have a wider trim and appear to have some kind of a shadow box effect around them. Is the casing trim all going to be the same, or is there something that you're trying to delineate specifically that's different from window to window?
The casing will be all the same.
Okay, so what would it be?
It would be basically like the window of the bedroom 1 above the front entry door.
So it would have some width to it, you know?
Yes, it's just this drawing comes from a 3D model, and it's probably how it shows, and I can fix that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you can tighten that up. And I'm not trying to be picky about the drawings. I just want to know if there's something specific that you were thinking about with either with the depth of the windows or with the trims itself. So yeah, okay. Then if you could just make that consistent. And then are all the windows throughout the entire house being replaced with the new Anderson casement?
Yes.
Clad windows?
Yes.
Okay, so throughout, all new. So, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? So I have a question regarding access. I'm realizing that the ADU is now taking up the lower level, which accesses the rear yard. How does someone get from the upper floors to the backyard if there's an occupant in the ADU?
Well, they can go through the side yard. They can go through the side yard, basically to the back. We used to have actually a stair, an outside stair from the upper deck on the second floor going to the backyard, but we removed it. But that's a good point.
Because there aren't any, otherwise you'd be going out the front door.
Correct, yeah.
Through the bushes and.
Well, there's a path on the left of the house that you can go through between the house, between the garage and the fence, but it is a bit on the narrow side. So we probably need to add the stair from the rear balcony to the backyard.
Okay. And I would just say, on top of what Commissioner Torres just said, as I'm thumbing through, I see the window specification in the back, but I'm not really seeing a whole lot in detail on the window trims. So maybe as you come back for action, if you include those details, then we'll have something that is in writing that we can rely upon go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Now that I've stalled a little, Commissioner Say.
Yes, thank you. Couple of questions. You may have worked it out. I know you have a couple of section cuts, but I'm not sure if you make the headroom clearance for the stairs going down to the ADU.
The stair actually exists and there is enough headroom. Yeah, we're only building. So if you look at existing plans on AO2, you will see that portion of the stair actually exists today. And we're going to preserve it. And then on the, for the headroom, so if you open up sections A12, that would be sheet A12 that shows the headroom. It's basically a section cut through the stair that shows the existing stair and the new stair going above it. I don't have a dimension there, but it is enough to walk through there.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it might work on the section cut. I'm just counting stairs, and I've myself never been able to make that kind of clearance. So within those number of steps, but if you made sure that works, then
I will put a dimension there. Thank you. Yes.
Can you check that again?
Yes.
And then your plate heights, let's see. Can't see, I don't think. Sorry if it's there and I can't see it as, I'm even using my reading glasses.
Oh, sorry.
What
Yeah,
are the plate heights on the first floor and the upper floor?
So we have 8-foot ceiling heights on the upper floor and the middle floor. And then on the lower floor, the current height is 7'3". And depending on the construction cost, we may talk to the structural engineer about lowering the floor of the ADU so it's higher, but right now we don't know if that will be acceptable for the budget. But it is 7'3" right now.
Okay, and the other two floors are 8 feet, you
8
said?
feet, yes, yeah.
So just curious, because I am looking at your elevations, mainly your front and rear elevations. Let me get back to those. The sill height of the windows in the bedrooms look to be fairly low. And, you know, wouldn't be an issue, except that I'm wondering, somehow the windows on the upper floors seem to be larger than the windows on the main floor. And so proportionately, it seems, you know, either they're wider, much wider than the lower floor windows, or fairly tall that they dwarf the windows on the lower floors.
So on the lower floor, we have an existing very large bay in the living room, and all those windows are just narrow because they fit into each facet of the bay. So we will be replacing them with new windows. And then above, we have the 2 bedrooms which require egress. And so the size of those windows is kind of driven by that. But I could look at
the casement windows or some other type of window.
Yeah, we maybe consider a different kind of window to make them a little bit slender.
Okay, well, yeah, but that was my question there, just thinking about maybe sill heights at bedrooms.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Camerata, did you have your hand up? No. Okay, then I got through them all. Okay. Then if we're done with questions to the applicant, then we can move forward and see if there's anybody in the public that wishes to make a comment at this time. I don't see any hands raised. Do we have any emails or correspondence on this project?
No emails on this application.
Okay, not seeing any hands, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and come back to the commissioners for comments. Vice Chair Loftus.
There's some interesting directions that the project, I think, is going. I think it needs some refinement. It feels like it's just it feels very vanilla right now to me. It verges on I think benefiting from a conversation with the design review consultant. The window proportions seem wrong. The floors all, you know, the 8 foot, 8 foot, and 7'3". I'm less worried about the 7'3" than the 8 foot, 8 foot. It feels very mundane somehow, and there are lots of big blank areas on the facade, and there's something a little bit odd about the new roof over the faceted bay. To me, I thought that the porch, at first I thought the porch reached all the way across in front of that, but it doesn't. It just feels to me like it needs to be refined, and I think it could benefit from a discussion with a design review consultant, frankly.
Other comments? So, Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Commissioner Loftus. The house right now has a lot of charm with the bay windows and the bow windows, and it appears that there's just a box that's been placed on top. And I agree with the proportions of the window not matching up. I was a little surprised to see that those bow windows, at the bow window at the front and the bay windows on the side were being kept, but that wasn't being echoed on the upper part. So to me, the second floor looks a little disjointed from the first. It appears as very much as an addition, where I think that they should be melding together a little bit more. I also, that the ceiling height in the downstairs came up in the ADU of 7'3", and I don't recall, but I would encourage the architect or an applicant to look at that. I am pretty sure that that is not going to make it with the California residential code as a living space height, but I could be wrong. It might be 7 feet, but just look into that, because that may put the brakes on the ADU addition down the bottom. But I agree with Commissioner Loftus. I think this probably could benefit from a design review consultant.
Okay. I'll go ahead. I'm too struggling a little bit. I'm a big proponent of really good 3D work, because I think it helps solve a lot of these issues that we're talking about right now. And although I see the 3Ds on A09, they're only that big. And so that's not really helping with the qualities of design that we're trying to discuss and impart upon and hope will come out in this project. So it is, in a way, a little hard to see how successful it will be given the views that we have right now. So I would highly encourage a bit more work on that to help us through this process. I agree that, we do have some style things that are running into each other, because the existing house doesn't really look very farmhousey, and yet we're kind of going to a new style here in the new design with the thicker roof trims and things. And so I'm not sure. The 3D is just not selling me that it's going to come off as a nice quality project that I think it could be. So I think that there's some work to be done there. Whether it's the design review consultant or not, hard to say. But I would need to see more in a next presentation. Commissioner Tronis.
Thank you. Yeah, I tend to agree with Commissioner Loftus's direction to send this to a design review consultant. I think the windows are one of the biggest issues that I have. I think the project could benefit by a reconsideration of the bed walls. I think if they would revisit those on the side elevations. One of the things I think that's affecting or hurting the elevations, creating a lot of blank space, is these horizontal windows above the head of the bed that just sort of give it that kind of apartment look with the high windowsills. They might want to consider instead, doing taller windows that are over the nightstands adjacent to a bed. They still have plenty of wall space to even fit a king size bed if that's the desire. And that's just one example of the kind of thing that I think that the design review consultant can help them look at. And then also just pulling the detailing together so that it's just a little bit more cohesive. Thanks.
Okay. Any further comments? No? Okay, then I'm feeling a direction here.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to refer this project to a design review consultant. I think it will speed things up, and otherwise we're going to pick at stuff and we'll go through several iterations before it gets where it needs to be, I believe.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Vice Chair Loftus and a second by Commissioner Camerado. Any further discussion on the motion?
Do we feel like we've been clear enough to the applicant and for a design review consultant to be of assistance? I mean, we've been very specific about a couple of things.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Vice Chair Loftus, I do think you've provided some good direction. If you had any comments about materials, maybe that might help steer things a little bit as well, if there was anything there. But I do think you've provided us a good launching point. Thank you.
I think that the key here is that 3D and getting the materiality on it, because right now it looks flat and it looks like glue on material. And that's not what we want it to be. We'd like it to, have a good, rich look. And that's really hard to see at the moment from what's being presented to us. So it's either going to need to be some good photographs of real materials that we can kind of grasp and feel, or they got to do a better job on the rendering to show us that there's more to this than just a flat box design. Did that capture for you, Will?
Yeah.
Okay, so then with the motion, can we get a vote?
Commissioner Camerata,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Torrones,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Loftus,
Aye.
and Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0-0-0. I'd like to reiterate that, recently going through the design consultant has not been as much a negative experience as much as it's really been a positive experience. So I hope the applicant realizes that we're actually trying to help it go a little bit faster and easier rather than postponing a decision and or multiple visits back. So I hope that we'll see your revised solution back soon. Okay, moving on then from 9B, 1423 Montero Avenue. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, will you please raise your hand so that we may be prepared to speak to you at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review and a special permit for building height for a first and second story addition to an existing single family dwelling at 1423 Montero Avenue, zoned R1. The applicant is proposing a remodel and addition that totals approximately 565 square feet with a small first floor addition at the rear and a second floor addition. With the proposed project, the house and garage would have a total floor area of 3,049 square feet, or 3,052 square feet is the maximum square footage allowed. With this application, the number of bedrooms would increase from 3 to 4. 2 off-street parking spaces are required, one of which must be covered and would be provided for in the attached garage, and the uncovered space would be provided in the driveway. The subject property is an upsloping lot with an approximately 13.9% slope. The code does allow for height to be measured at a 15-foot setback, provided that the slope is 25% or greater. So this project does not qualify for that. The existing house is non-conforming in height at 34 feet 7 inches, and that's measured from the average top of curb elevation. And so the applicant is requesting a special permit for the building height to match the existing building height at 34 feet 7 inches. Staff notes that the existing house does have a non-conforming right side setback at 3 feet or 4 feet required. However, that wall will not be modified as part of the construction. And both the left and right side of the house are also non-conforming in declining height envelope. However, this is not uncommon given the existing Dutch colonial style of architecture. But all the new construction is code compliant, falls within declining height envelope, and meets all zoning and setback requirements. This application is requesting design review for the first and second story addition, and then the special permit for building height to match existing at 34 feet 7 inches. Staff has provided for you for reference, the design review criteria, as well as the findings that are required for the special permit. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. The project architect is also available for any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions of staff at this point? Okay, seeing no hands, then we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. And will the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything you'd like to add about your project?
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Anne Revisa with Architecture Allure. I'm with the architects on this project. Just to kind of reiterate, we're primarily keeping the front facade and the entry facade side the same. We're really focusing our addition to the rear and maintaining the existing style and trying to work within that. I do want to add that my clients, the owners, Rob and Kate, have done some initial neighbor outreach, and they've gotten positive feedback, specifically from the two side neighbors and across the street as well. They're a very close, tight-knit neighborhood. They recently did a block party, and so they've shown these plans to their neighbors and have their support. Any questions?
Great. Do we have any questions of the applicant? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go ahead and move on, see if there's anybody in the public here that wishes to comment. I'm not seeing any hands. Do we have any emails or other?
Nope.
Okay, then seeing no hands, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and come back to the commissioners. Comments, commissioners? Commissioner Tronis.
Yeah, I think that this is a nice project. I think it takes, some kind of quirky areas that are around the, I guess I don't know if you call it the side or the front or at least the entry side, infills those areas, programs out pretty nicely. There's the only thing that's been asked of us is design review and the special permit for height. I can make the findings for the special permit for height. And the addition areas flush out that rear elevation and fill in that void, I think pretty nicely. So I think it's a nice project and should move forward to action, perhaps even on consent. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Loftus.
I agree with Commissioner Tronis. I think it's a very sensitive alteration to a pretty nice building. I like that. I like the house. It's sort of quirky, and the gambrel is kind of cool, and the curve at the gambrel is very cool. I like the house. I think the addition is very sensitive, and I also could make the findings for the height.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Camarado.
Yeah, I really actually, when I drove up to this house, I really thought it was the quaintest little house. So I thought that they did a really good job with the design and appreciate what they did.
Great. Commissioner Say.
Thank you. Yes, I too agree with my fellow commissioners. I think the house has some nice balance to all four sides. And I like the sensitivity to some of the window sizes. They make a lot of sense. Adds a really nice, again, balance to the elevations on all sides. And I do like that infill on the rear elevation as well. And I think it's been very nicely done. I can agree with the findings for the height variance as well. And if there aren't any other comments, I would move that we put this project on the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Perfect, thank you. We've got a motion by Commissioner Say and a second by Commissioner Toronis. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, then let's vote.
Commissioner Camerata,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Ilarios,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say, Vice Chair Loftus,
Aye.
and Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0-0-0. And congratulations. Moving on to item 9C, 9 Victoria Road. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared to speak to you at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes. The applicant is proposing additions to both the first and second floors of the existing two-story house at 9 Victoria Road. Planning staff would note that although the existing second floor extends beyond the declining height envelope along the right side of the house, the proposed second floor addition complies with the declining height envelope. Staff would also note that the existing finished floor of the house is 4 foot 7 inches above average top of curb, and the finished floor of the addition would match the existing finished floor height. In summary, the applicant is requesting design review for a first and second story addition to an existing single family dwelling. The applicant is available to answer questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go to the applicant. Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else that you'd like regarding your project?
Hi, good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Adrian Huron. I'm the designer on the project, and all I can say is I'm excited about this project and excited to hear any comments that you might have. We've preserved the frontage of the building. There's no work from the curb side. Tudor, being pretty important in Burlingame. We want to preserve it. We love it, and we had some fun out back. So at the same time, still following the language of Tudor with the roof pitches and shapes. Any questions or comments that you might have, please?
Great, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Gall.
I had a couple of questions. If you go to your roof plan, it looks like you've got you have 2 new skylights, and they look to be the little dome sun tunnel type things. Is that correct? Because I don't see them on the elevation.
That's correct. Yeah, they do. That part of the roof doesn't really show up on any of the elevations. It's sort of tucked behind that the existing two-story portion. But you're right, it is the sun tube. What we're looking for is getting some light into the upstairs hallway, where we're going to have a linen closet.
You don't think that a regular skylight would work there? I think they possibly give you more light than those sun tubes.
Possibly. Yeah, we can look into that. I mean, it's a pretty small hall. Yeah, we can look into a regular skylight there.
Okay. The other question I have is you spoke a lot about maintaining the architecture and the design, the roof pitch, that type of thing. But then on the addition, you have vertical siding. I'm missing the correlation between the existing house being stuccoed and then switching over to a different type of siding for the addition.
Yeah, it is a digression of materials. the basic concept here is that the existing stucco on the Tudor it's got a particular stipple that it's not flat. It's got a sort of a stone-like look, which the owner is particularly fond of. On that last one that we had, the A3.1, you could see that the what we're trying to do is preserve as much of the stucco as possible. It's in fairly good condition. And then, sort of to play with the massing, we wanted to introduce the vertical siding in order to break up the materials. We're on that A3.1 elevation. We have a half timber that sort of follows the existing line of the existing dwelling out towards the back, in order to preserve as much of that stucco as possible.
Okay, I'll save my comments until later after I hear from the other commissioners. I don't think you're helping yourself with the height and how vertical it's making it look, but I'll wait for comments from the other commissioners on that as well. Thank you.
So unless there's other questions by the commissioners, I actually want to continue on Commissioner Gall's train of thought a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit more about the siding that you're choosing? I'm looking for it as I'm thumbing through here. Is it a shiplap? Is it a V groove? Is it, what does the joint look like? Because you're drawing, with the lines and trying to capture the spirit of the material, are showing a fairly deep amount of line work. So is it going to be like that with the material, or is it going to be something that's very flat?
We were thinking something that would be fairly flat. So it would be a tongue and groove shiplap, not a V groove. I've seen it before. It looks pretty good, I think.
Okay, Commissioner Tronis.
Yeah, so going back to that, I guess it's the left side elevation. Essentially, there's the existing large gable and the addition with the new vertical siding. That's all in one plane, broken up just by the half timber as you were describing, correct?
That's correct.
So then my related question is, you've broken off the porch elevation off to the side. Is that just to show us what's happening underneath the porch with that door and the window out to the porch, or is there some other reason why it's not there on the elevation? I mean,
no, that was it. It was just for clarity, to show the outline on the elevation, and then to show the porch on the side. As we were going to get further along, I thought if we needed to cut sections through the door or the porch, can do it separately.
Okay. The reason I ask is that porch element is the one thing that kind of breaks up that massive
Right.
elevation. So
I can see that now. Yeah.
I don't know if you helped yourself there, but okay. So you will have that element, just there on that elevation to kind of break up that mass along
Yes.
with the change in the materials. But
yes,
not sure if I'm getting and understanding the change in materials still. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, any further questions for the applicant? Okay, not seeing any. Then I'll go ahead and go to the public and see if there's any public comment. I'm not seeing any hands right now. Do we have any emails or other correspondence?
No emails.
Okay, not seeing any hands. I'm going to go back to close the public hearing, go back to our commissioners. Vice Chair Loftus.
I think this project is somewhat more sophisticated than some of the projects we see that try to attach a modernist addition to you know, a pretty straightforward historic box or traditional box. You know, that said, I don't think its level of sophistication is, it doesn't feel to me like it's an appropriate response to the box. It sort of ignores, it's not trying to integrate itself with the house other than by its massing. And sometimes that's enough, but this feels like it's so so irreverent to, that's not the right word, maybe irrelevant's a better word. It's irrelevant to the existing architecture. The massing, the relation of the mass doesn't save this from feeling like an attempt to do a Secretary of the Interior's response to when it's not warranted. You know, and I think that it's not just the vertical siding, which I think is the wrong response and very undifferentiated. It creates a homogeneous mass that's sort of undifferentiated. It's the metal plate awnings as well. The welded metal plate awnings, I think, are very strange. It's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like, you know, the flying nun's hat or something. It feels completely out of character with the rest of the house. And I sort of understand what the designer's doing here. I just don't find myself agreeing with it. I don't find it a compelling addition. It might be interesting in and of itself as a house type, and it's, as I said, I think it's more sophisticated than some of the things that come in front of us and try to match to try to fit into the neighborhood. I just don't think it integrates with the house very well, and I think it ought to try harder to do that, personally.
Okay.
Thanks.
Commissioner Colorado?
Yeah, so I actually agree with Commissioner Loftus. I felt like when I started to review these plans that it was just it was almost trying too hard. I feel like the house is, a traditional Tudor can be very simple in its own elegance. And I think that with the siding and then the framing over those windows, it's just, and then there's just so many different windows. I feel like it's just a little bit complicated. So I think that this would be a good project to go to design review, but I'd like to see what my fellow commissioners would say.
Commissioner Torontos?
Thank you. Yeah, I have similar thoughts to Commissioner Loftus and Commissioner Camarado. I think that the massing and the detailing of the addition is rather nice. You know, if I look at that left side elevation and I bring that porch element over, it's well detailed, and if I saw a whole house of that, I think it could be a nice solution. Maybe it needs a little bit of a base to bring down the verticality, but still in and of itself, it is sophisticated and nicely detailed, but I think it just attaches itself to the existing house, as Commissioner Loftus said, in sort of an irreverent way. You know, the designer described it as a sort of a digression, but I think the digression is so incongruous with the existing that, you know, I'm just having some difficulty. We had a similar house that the architect wanted to take the original Craftsman and add a more modern thing that kind of slammed into the rear. And what they ended up doing after our input and feedback is they brought something that had the same materials and was what they called playful and contemporary, but it was more consistent with the existing structure in the materiality and some of the detailing, but then it just got playful with some of the windows and openings, etc. And this one, if I look at that left side elevation and I consider the fact that that's all one mass, and the one thing that's helping break down that whole one mass is the change in materials that's along that side, but it's all in one plane. And so because I'm having difficulty with the change in materials, it therefore leads me to realize that it's not a really good solution to break down that large mass of house that's along that left side. You know, it just sort of falsely resolves itself by keeping that existing gable and changing materials, but it's all in plane. So, you know, I like the detailing that's there, as I said. but I just don't think it fits together with the existing house and hangs together as an overall design in terms of the design criteria that we have to consider. Thank you,
sir. Commissioner Say?
Yes, thank you. So I echo again what my fellow commissioners have stated. I just want to also add that that I feel that the backyard may be difficult to enjoy against a really tall, flat rear elevation of the height of this addition. And would suggest on top of the items that my fellow commissioners have noted, that there be some consideration for some of the articulation and the massing of that rear wall as it relates to the backyard, which is not tremendously large. It's one of the typical Burlingame backyards, and would love for it to be, better enjoyed if it had a little bit better relationship with that rear side.
Vice Chair Loftus?
Yeah.
Your hand's still up, or you want a second try?
No, I wanted to say something else. With respect to design review consultant, I think this is a very skilled designer that we're seeing the work of right here. What I would say is I think that the designer maybe is missing an opportunity here. When I look at this and I ignore the lines that are created by, if I just look at the massing in the windows and that sort of thing and ignore the texture of the wood, I could see this being the very sort of Charles Rennie Mackintosh or Gunnar Asplund modernism. They have very modernist sensibilities that would fit very well with this kind of stucco house. And I'd suggest that the designer go back and look at Asplund and Charles Rennie Mackintosh, very sophisticated modern sensibilities that this reminds me of. Somehow the compositional qualities of it remind me of. So I think it could be a really nice project, actually. I just think right now it's incongruous. That was a really good word.
Okay. For me, it kind of comes back again to the 3D. I'm looking at this elevation on the left side, and yeah, it doesn't look terrible with the material transition until you step back and say it is all in one plane. And if the addition was 3 or 4 feet set back from the stucco elevation, then yeah, it would start to make sense. But I think when we see this three-dimensionally, we're going to go, wow, that doesn't work like that. And why would we have two elevation? It's going to be a two-faced elevation. And I don't think that that's going to work. Yeah, and I agree. It's not so much the style part of it for me. It's where the transitions aren't there for me. And it does feel more like the one we looked at a while back where the back crashed into the front. And I can appreciate the attempt to kind of preserve the front half of the house because it's a good looking house still and has some good value to it. It's just that I think we're backloading this house with a very big mass, and it's creating some very unusual elevations in the back, which may not be our biggest concern, but yet it's not working. So I'm in agreement there. I'm kind of hoping that we're giving enough direction here for the designer to take another swing at this. So I'm not sure I've heard an actual direction here from everybody, other than that we're not in agreement that it's ready to go forward. But we need to maybe consolidate this into how we think we can give them the best possible path forward. Commissioner Tronis.
Yeah, I'm defaulting to the sophistication and detailing again that I'm seeing in the addition, to where I don't know if a design review consultant is the solution, because it could end up just creating more sort of tension and having another voice in the room, another another chef when we have what I think is a pretty good chef to begin with. I know we often feel that another set of eyes, would help with a project, et cetera. But in this case, I think it's just a matter of the designer going back and rethinking the basic approach. So, okay. That's
Okay. Commissioner Camerado?
I think that I think it should go back to design review, although I hear Commissioner Toronis and his comments about the designer being a really good designer and maybe coming back to us. So maybe I'm open to having the applicant kind of decide one way or the other. If they would like to go for it one more time and see if they can kind of create something that we can approve, then I think that that would be acceptable to me.
Okay. As we've had this challenge in the past, where we can't just say, come back again next week, we need to give them some direction and a path. And so I think our choice is to move them forward on an action item with clear direction of what we expect in that action submittal. And we trust that that the design team will hear us and can move that forward. And so that's what I would be asking, that's what I'm hearing at the moment as a direction that we might be able to take. I see a couple hands here, so I'm going to give a shot to Commissioner Larios.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to chime in and say that I think this is a good candidate for design review. And I think that would give the applicant a clear guideline of moving forward with this project. But I agree with everything that my fellow commissioner said. I think this is a very nuanced design, and I think that there's definitely expertise there. But I think the route that I would choose is to refer it to design review just so that we can move it forward.
Okay. Vice Chair Loftus?
Well, I'm going to take the other path. I'm going to propose that we bring this back on. I'm going to make a motion that we bring this back on regular action, trusting that the designer has heard that we like many things about the house, but it needs to pay attention to the house that it's adding on to. And I believe that that's enough guidance for them to understand what will happen if they come back and what's likely to happen if they come back and that hasn't been addressed.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Vice Chair Loftus and a second by Commissioner Camerado. Is there further discussion on the motion? Okay, then let's vote.
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Yes.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Loftus,
Aye.
and Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0-0-0. I think that we gave some good direction to the applicant for next time. So just because we're moving it forward doesn't necessarily mean we're in full agreement here on the outcome. And if there is question, I would encourage the applicant to reach out to the planning staff and if necessary to the commission so that we can have a successful outcome. With that ends our design review study session. Moving on to commissioners' reports. Do we have any today? Not seeing any movement. We'll go on to director's report.
Let's see, we have no FYIs this week. I can report from the November 1st City Council meeting. City Council took a first review of the zoning ordinance update. It was not the introduction yet. That comes the formal introduction in the next meeting. But they were very appreciative of the hard work that the Planning Commission put into it. We gave them a copy of the staff reports for the Planning Commission, plus all of the minutes from all of the different study sessions. So I think it was pretty apparent that a lot of thought has gone into that, and they appreciate all the hard work that you've all done. And generally, the council we'll see next Monday, but they generally were received the ordinance very well, and we're hoping for a smooth path forward. So thank you all again for your all the attention that you put into that. I know we had a series of those study sessions, and it's a bit of a slog, but I think it's paid off, and they're very happy with the end result.
Excellent, thank you. That sounds like the end, right?
That is it.
Okay, well, if that's the end, then we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting and see you all next time.
Night,
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys-